Welcome back to Admit It with Alexis White. I have had so many privileges in this short podcast time of interviewing and chatting with people that I have so much respect for. So today is no different. I am with Alyson. Well, are we going to call you Alyson Mischel Ein?
I like Alyson Mischel Ein, yes.
Yes. So she's the woman of three names. Alyson Mischel Ein is somebody I've known for the better part of 20 years. We've had a sordid past. We have a long history, something where we've known each other for so many years, in different pockets of life, always ultimately running into each other at the same Starbucks twice a year or something, doing the quick check-in. How are the kids? How are the things? Blah, blah, blah. And then saying goodbye. And this is something that I think why I always talk about pivoting in the podcast. I talk about it ad nauseum. I'm talking about things changing, things being fluid, and for kids especially to understand in the admissions process that things don't always go as planned. You move, you change, and that's what happens in life. So my relationship with Alyson's a perfect example. Like we have these once or twice a year random check-ins at Starbucks, and then taking our kids trick-or-treating a few years ago, Alyson stopped me. We ran into each other, which is already weird, and was like, I am thinking about making a career change. And I want to talk to you about what you do. And that was the beginning of the beginning. So Alyson, will you tell us what your background is and how we kind of got to this spot?
Yes. Okay. So my background is, well, I will say this. Well, we can talk about how I got into Stanford in a minute, but I feel like in many ways
it all
starts with Stanford. I went there. Truthfully, I kind of felt outclassed. Everyone, was going to med school or to be an investment banker or a management consultant. I had to figure out something to do. I knew what I didn't want to do. I ended up applying to graduate school. I applied to the USC School of Social Work to become a social worker. And that was sort of my first career stop. And I loved it. I worked with kids, adults who had severe and persistent mental illness, did that for many, many years, started a private practice, got completely burnt out, ended up getting a job at UCLA doing graduate school admissions in the School of Education. Was at a university, realized it's no fun to be at a university if you don't have a PhD, went back for my PhD. That led into teaching at the USC School of Social Work for a decade, and always having a private practice, always loving teaching. And then it's like I had kids and all of a sudden didn't want to work as hard, didn't want to be on a schedule like that. And I found that my private practice was fulfilling, but not really fulfilling enough. And that's when I started thinking, well, what can I do with all of these sort of disparate aspects of my career? And enter Alexis.
Enter Alexis. I wanted to ask you about what drove you to want to be a social worker. And will you tell us what that means?
Yes. So many people don't understand social work. I mean, when I was coming up as a social worker, people thought that we handed out welfare checks and took babies away through Child Protective Services.
That's kind of what I imagine, although I know absolutely that is not what you were doing. But.
Yes. So essentially, social workers are trained to help indigent populations, sort of socioeconomically insecure populations, people that can't get help anywhere else. But the skills that social workers learn are all of the same therapeutic clinical skills that a marriage family therapist or that a PsyD or that a psychologist would learn. We just take as social workers a more societal, systemic approach to things. So I had studied sociology before going back and getting a social work degree. And the best way I can describe social work is the sort of roll up your sleeves and actually help the people that you were studying about if you're taking sociology classes.
And the difference between that and being a psychologist, a clinical psychologist, when you're sitting in an office and talking, doing therapy with people one-on-one,
right,
is that are you going into facilities, dealing with patient care that's on that really high touch level?
It is. It's very case management oriented. And in many ways, it actually informs what I do now, the way I work in my private practice now, in that I think 50-minute therapy sessions are dead, particularly when you're working with teenagers. They want immediacy. They want to be able to text you their problems. They want things fast. And that really came very naturally to me because of my social work background, where I was maybe only meeting with someone for 10 minutes to check in to make sure they were medication compliant. And then when I started my private practice, I chose to market myself as a life coach, knowing that certain demographics, certain population, particularly male clients, didn't necessarily want to go see a therapist,
Right.
but they'd be happy to get some executive coaching, some life coaching.
What would you say are the tenets of being a life coach?
Oh, that's a difficult question. The tenets of being a life coach. I think that it is really helping people clearly articulate their goals and objectives and helping them achieve those things. Checking away or sort of doing away with all of the barriers that they might have put in place previously to help them meet their goals.
What types of barriers do you think people put in place? I want to get back to this as far as the college counseling piece is concerned. So what do you see?
The biggest thing is I can't do that. It's so overwhelming. I don't know how to do that. I need help. I think that I see this with adults. I see it with people my age, and I also see it with teenagers. There's a lot of feeling easily overwhelmed and not knowing how to take the first step. So a lot of what I'm doing is confidence building.
And that's a lot of what we're doing with students is sitting with them and giving them those baby steps of, you want to start a club. Well, that's a really big ask or a big goal for a teenager, a 10th grader, 11th grader that is so concerned about their image. They're so concerned about how do I even start a club? Let's find the person at school who you need to talk to about whether or not this club still even exists and if it's something that could or should be on campus. Let's start with that person. Okay, that's number one.
Right. It's baby steps.
Right. And as far as your private practice was concerned, when you say you were burned out,
yes,
what did that mean?
I think for me, I mean, at the time that I really had a bigger private practice, it was very much a quarter life crisis private practice. It was, I went to law school and I don't want to be a lawyer. Or, I've been working as a in development in the entertainment industry, and I know I'm not going to get a promotion, so I need to kind of reinvent myself.
Right.
And for me, I just felt like I wasn't being impactful enough. I wasn't, unlike college guidance. There's a beginning and a middle and an end. People come to you, there's something they want to accomplish, and you get them to that end goal.
Right.
It's a little more nebulous in the counseling psychology world. And I just felt like I'm an impatient person. I wasn't seeing change and progress and results quickly enough.
And the college counseling thing, I think, is really satisfying because, there's a season to it. It starts, it could be a 2-year process, whatever, but there is a beginning, middle, and end. And then if you're lucky enough, they come back for grad school or whatever, which we have happen, which is so fun, or transferring or whatever. But that excitement of getting in, great. Also, the guidance through the process when you don't get in, right? The transitional stuff, the changing strategies, that's interesting and ever changing. And I do it's weird. A client had said to me a few weeks ago, I don't know how you do this. It's so stressful. And I said, well, it's actually fun because at the end of the day, once the applications are out, I have no control. For somebody, and I think people might look at me and think I'm like a very type A person, and I'm not at all, actually. I'm the kind of person who gets on the plane and I'm like, well, if we go down, that's why I love traveling, because I just feel like there's that moment of just let go. And that's part of what we try to impart to the kids in this process. There are so many factors of the admissions process. There's nepotism. There's, competition with grades. There are things that are just out of your control. People who are more connected, people who are smarter, people who look better on paper, whatever it is, just like in real life. So watching them all ultimately graduate, find where they're going to go is very exciting. But for you in your college admissions process, you have a good story.
I do have a good story.
How did we get to Stanford?
So, my mom, I was going to Beverly Hills High, and she decided I needed to go to Westlake. This was before Harvard Westlake merged. The leaders of America, Allyson, the female leaders of America are going to be at Westlake.
That's what she told you?
It might even been, this was 7th or 8th grade. That's what she told me. She wanted me to go. And I was like, Mom, I'm not going to an all-girls school. I'm happy here. This is it for me. And so she decided at that point that she was going to mastermind, getting into a great college for me. And I had an incredible college counselor that I started with in 8th grade. And I will never forget, I went in for the first meeting and she asked what I was into. And I immediately said, I'm into history. I like reading historical fiction. I love watching movies. And she sort of dug a little deeper. And I think I had probably said, well, I like Indiana Jones movies. And she said, there's this field school. It's an archaeology program in Durango, Colorado. Why don't you go there this summer? And I had absolutely no idea what this was about, but I said, yeah, it was a summer away, a month in Colorado. There was some camping. There was history. I knew that I was going to learn about the Aztec Indians, which was sort of interesting to me. And I just absolutely fell in love with it. So I think it was an example of someone seeing something in me. It's very hard to articulate liking history on a college application. We talk a lot about show me, don't tell me. Mm-hmm. And an archaeological dig is a show me moment. I mean, there's imagery there. There's, physically, it's tangible, all those things. And this college counselor just saw it. And then from there, I went to, I studied with an Oxford professor. He was doing a dig on the island of Majorca. I stayed with him and his family for the summer. I was the only high school field assistant.
How did you get in touch with this person?
Through someone at the Colorado Field School who knew that they were looking for volunteers. I mean, it just kind of all came together. And around the same time, because I was doing all this traveling alone, I mean, I was really, I was going to Spain by myself, all of these different things, I picked up a camera and I realized I really loved taking pictures. So then it became summer going into senior year. I'm about to apply places. What can we do to merge these two interests, to marry these two interests on your application? And these were the days when everything was still done on paper. Mm-hmm. And I remember my mom helping me typing out essays on like a word processor. I didn't even think we had a computer.
I typed mine on a typewriter.
Yeah. Shrinking it. Mm-hmm. The smallest font, using the Xerox machine to shrink it, to get it all in. And I ended up doing a mock-up of a National Geographic magazine for my application with pictures of my archaiological digs, the words, the whole thing.
How was that even
They allowed it. I don't know how, but I did
you
it.
Just sent that in the mail. Like a magazine style.
Exactly. It had all the other components in it, but the essay was like a magazine style mock-up of a National Geographic with color. 14 schools I applied to.
And you used a color Xerox machine?
Yes. Did they even exist in 1993?
They 1,000% did.
Yes.
It was very expensive and you had to go to a place.
Yes. Was there Kinko's?
Was there Kinko's? I don't even know.
Yeah. And then,
and where did you get the pictures? Because, they were your pictures.
They were the pictures that I had taken.
Because I was going to say, there was no internet.
Yes. No, they were my own pictures. You actually would have had to cut them out of National Geographic, or they were your own pictures. Yes, they were my own pictures. The kicker, though, is that I got to Stanford. I mean, this was like such a reach for me. Syracuse and Northwestern were kind of the places that I was planning. That was the dream. I get into Stanford. I'm like, I legit like archaeology. One class, and I'm like, done, over, never again. But
Hate this.
Yeah, not for me. Way too scientific. I liked the camping and the being in the dirt. And
you basically wanted to go on a glamping trip.
Yes, that's exactly what I wanted.
You wanted to go to on a safari.
I wanted to be in Spain. Yes, in like a luxury in a glamping situation. You're absolutely right.
That's really funny.
But it got me in.
Right.
And to this day, I love history. I still read historical fiction. If there's a museum that has anything to do with ancient civilization, I'm there. So the passion's there. It wasn't that it wasn't authentic. It was very authentic. It just wasn't my life's work.
Right. When I think about my college application process, I realize now, just talking to you, I talk about this a lot on social. Like, I was an art history major. And art history would have been, if I had had a me in my life, that would have been the major to apply to.
Right.
And I applied to all these really selective schools that I had, quite honestly, no business applying to. Vassar, Wesleyan, Columbia, this one, that one. I mean, I think I was lucky to have a 3.7 GPA. Maybe like a 3.5. Even at that time, that was a stretch. If I had done art history, and what did I like about what were all of those pieces of that puzzle, exactly like what you were talking about. I wasn't a great reader, but I loved art, and I loved history, and I loved going to museums. It happened when I was in my AP art history class at Marlborough. It changed my life. Yeah. And I loved she was like a real college professor. That class was an hour and a half long. My papers were used as examples. It was like, this is the perfect, AP, whatever rubric. I'm like, oh my God, that's my paper. That's my paper. And I would go to the Getty with my dad, and I would go to LACMA, and any museum, I just sucked it all up. That would have been the major. Right. And I probably would have gotten into some of those schools. You might have been at Vassar. And what did I say I was going to major in? The worst, the major we're always trying to get people to not do. What is it, Alyson? Business. Business. We all want to be a business major. Because apparently, and I always tell kids this, everything we all do is a business, right? Do you think that every restaurant owner or person who has a store or is an executive, does everybody have a business degree? What does that even mean? If I could do it over again, I'd have gone to Vassar. But I was reminded that I took my first economics class at UCLA. UCLA did not have a business major. I was a biz econ major. And actually, none of the UC schools have business major except for Berkeley. So I was a biz econ major my first day of school. I had an 8 a.m. economics class.
I already see where this is going.
That was a no. It was your archaeology class. I was like, what is this? I got a C- and never did business again.
But now you're a businesswoman.
Now I'm a businesswoman. You know what's crazy is that you can hire people to do businessy things for you.
That's right.
Like accounting.
Yeah.
And that stuff. Although you do have to have sort of a fundamental understanding, but what is that about? Really disseminating information, analyzing, being able to do the 30,000 foot view, zoom in, zoom out, setting
and knowing
goals.
What data to ask for, knowing what data to ask someone to compile for you.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And I think one of the main things about a business person is that gut feeling that you have to be able to spot a need and fulfill that need in an enterprising way, but also to have an intuition about people that you want in your sphere to work with you. Like you.
Yes.
So there you go.
Yes.
I told you we were going to go on tangents, and that's exactly what happened. So you go to Stanford. Did you feel like the people there were your people?
Socially, they were my people. I met an incredible group of friends. I joined a sorority. I was president of the sorority. I mean, I had an amazing
What
experience.
Sorority?
Kappa Alpha Theta.
You're such a Theta girl. I love it.
But although at Stanford, we were the non-sorority sorority, and we didn't have houses. So it was just sort of this social, there's no hazing. It's not sort of, It wasn't Bama Rush. None of that was going on. But it was, so socially it was great, but I really did feel like everyone, they had goals. They were interning in New York, going after their freshman year of college, knowing that they wanted to get a job at Morgan Stanley. And being in Silicon Valley at that time, I mean, there really wasn't a Silicon Valley then. It was just starting. There was just a lot of, what's new. I ended up going to, school with people that were one of the first 10 employees at PayPal. It was just, everything was happening all around me really fast. And I honestly, a lot of it was going over my head.
Yeah.
It really was.
What do you think that the Stanford education gave you?
I think it's just instant pedigree, to be honest. It's like I get to go through life having been vetted, and that it sounds sort of crass to say that, but it's true. You say that you go to a school like that and people assume you're intelligent.
Right.
It's so it's given me that. It gave me a lot of confidence. I learned what I was good at. I learned at that point that it was okay to step away from things that didn't come naturally to me. So it was like when I needed to take, my required science class, it was let's find the absolute easiest science class to take and get over it. I learned that math was never going to be my thing. I ended up doing my math requirements through UCLA Extension because I decided I was going to make the most of my time there. My parents also said to me, we'll pay for 4 years of college. So make it worth your while. And between AP credits, getting transferred in, and summer school through UCLA, I was able to get my bachelor's in 3 years. And they had a co-term program where you could work toward a master's in your 4th year. So I got a master's in sociology when I was there. So I just—
Wow. Did you do 2 years or 1 year?
It was a 1-year master's program.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, it was great. And I thought I wanted to be a researcher. I was like, oh, this is interesting. Maybe I should stay on for a PhD. And then I also realized that I was ready to just roll up my sleeves and get the stuff done again. That's very much who I am. I don't love thinking about things. I love doing things. And so social work it was like the natural progression.
And did you have any experience in that hands-on learning style at Stanford? Were you able to do things that were the roll up your sleeves type of things?
Yes. I mean, that's something that they had in spades. They had the Bing nursery school through their school of education I was able to work at. My job in college was actually, I picked up a little boy who was on the spectrum from school 4 days a week, and I would do his homework with him and prep dinner. And so I already was kind of like a helper. I always wanted to help people. When I was in high school, I volunteered for Teen Line, which is, sort of a
still
hotline,
happening.
still exists. I still do things like that now. I'm still very much involved in philanthropy and really looking at how we can help kids and teenagers with their emotional well-being.
Let's talk about the emotional health of the kids that we work with.
Yeah.
Or lack thereof. I don't say necessarily the lack of emotional health of the kids that we work with per se, but the landscape of what's happening now, and what you're seeing with respect to the college admissions process as it relates to your career as a psychologist. So when you first came on with us, and the way we started was you would shadow me essentially and be with me working with clients together. I have zero background as a psychologist. I don't necessarily consider myself a great listener. That's a skill that I've really had to develop. I'm a big talker, not a great listener. So one of the things I feel like I learned from you, watching you, and even just in the way we talk with each other, but also the way you speak with clients, how you listen. What are some of the skills that you've imparted as a psychologist to / with your students that you feel kind of has helped you or them?
I think honestly, the biggest skill is to just slow down. I mean, what I see with teens, they're assigned way too many assignments. It's way too much reading that they're expected to do. I mean, it's just a lot. And so there's this culture of just needing to get it done. And what happens when they come to work with us for college guidance is that they're good at getting things done. They can hand me a draft of an essay really quickly, but there may not be any depth. They may not have really thought much about what they were trying to say. So taking a deep breath, slowing down, it is worth 30 minutes of just brainstorming and thinking about things before you ever start writing anything, before you start making a list of where you want to go to college. Just really taking a deep breath and figuring out who you are, what you want, what your actual opinion is on something before you start just plowing forward because you have to get it done. I have to get this submitted.
Right. The have to get it done thing is so pervasive, obviously, in our day to day. And we live, the minute you just said slow down, I'm like, I just want to slow down now. But obviously, we're Instacarting, we're Uber Eatsing, we're let's go, order it, deliver it, all that. I think that you're absolutely right. And this is something that we really should be implementing in our own business as far as a personal self-reflection, kind of like what your counselor did with you when you were in 8th grade. And 8th grade feels early, but it's not really early because an 8th grader knows what they like to do.
They do.
It doesn't have to be some big thing. It just can be, I like to read.
Mm-hmm.
I like to watch movies. I like to cook. I like to play my sport.
Mm-hmm.
But then when we peel away the layers and get in, right? Well, what is it about cooking that you really like? I like the steps. I like having an end result. I like, and then maybe you like math.
Yeah.
And that's really similar to cooking in that way. You have the ingredients, you plug into the formula.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody applies to the same 25 schools.
With the same 5 majors.
And it's get it done. I want to be a business major. What is going on with this?
Yeah. A lot of it is groupthink. I think a lot of it is just everyone's talking to one another. They're all watching the same content. They all want the same career. They don't even know what they want career-wise.
That's what I was going to say. What is that?
They know that they want to make a lot of money.
Uh-huh.
And they want status and they want prestige and they want the lifestyle. And their mind, and a lot of it makes sense. Well, how can I do that? Well, I can go work in finance. And so that's what I want to do. I can be an entrepreneur. I want to start a business, whatever it is. I've got a lot of kids coming to me that say they want to do that. Less than half of them actually I can already tell, have the skills that will enable them to be an entrepreneur, to succeed in that cutthroat world of, Manhattan finance and things like that. So they know that they want the stuff. And my feeling is there's a lot of different ways to get the stuff.
What are they seeing in content that makes them want the stuff?
I mean, I think a lot of it is how quickly young people have been able to make money. Mm-hmm. Young people already having Louboutins and expensive cars and all these. And frankly, that was something when we were kids too.
Right. We wanted to be rich and fabulous.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think, though, that we saw our parents, maybe not that parents now are not working hard, but if you're able to work from home, if you have your phone with you and you're still able to travel, but you're still working, I don't think kids are always seeing, oh, dad's actually like working. Right. They're just being like, I'm on the beach and my dad's they don't understand that this is a 24/7 world we're living. They do in terms of their own, Snapchat world, but the same is true for the business world as well. They just don't know what real work looks like. And the pressures that are simmering underneath the surface. And even though we can tell them a zillion times that what they see on social media isn't real, it just does not penetrate. That just because someone's driving a Lamborghini, it doesn't mean that they actually own
this Lamborghini.
Yes.
Exactly. I have said this before. I blame the Kardashians.
Yes, I agree.
And by the way, I'm a fan.
Yeah.
I'm here for all of it.
Yeah.
But they did something so unbelievable.
They're the outliers.
But the kids don't understand that.
Right.
So there was sort of the Mark Zuckerberg crew,
mm-hmm.
right? That concept, that would be in the early tech moment of, oh, you could be 23, drop out of college, and then the social network, and then all of a sudden be him. And then this idea that you could be famous for being famous. But then roll that into all of these incredible business endeavors and but not understanding there's an entire machine that moves that. There are hundreds of people that pitch those concepts that create, not that the Kardashians aren't creative, not that they're not business oriented, not that Kris Jenner isn't some kind of genius, but they don't understand that it is so much work.
Yes. They also don't understand that there are a lot of unsexy ways to make money. There are people that own trucking companies, that own manufacturing companies. To be successful doesn't mean you need to have a clothing line, a beauty line, be in the hospitality industry. And so these kids need more real world experience. Like, I'd rather them attend a lecture given by someone who works for a construction company and how do you make money as a contractor,
right? Than
how, I successfully am an angel investor. It's not real.
my husband and I always say that we always say hangers. So
Yes, exactly.
So in Down and Out in Beverly Hills, which is now I'm dating us, but it's a very old 80s movie, but they were super rich. They lived in Beverly Hills, again, part of that kind of aspirational life. But the dad manufactured hangers, wire hangers. And that is how they made their money. And it was so brilliant because when you really do meet people who have generational wealth, who have real money, they are doing something not new money. They are doing something right, very unsexy. They manufacture bricks.
Exactly.
Didn't we work with somebody?
Yes, this year.
Right.
Yes.
Manufacture bricks. They manufacture steel. They have, what are those? What do you, when you have like a dump site or whatever for like steel and like metals and stuff? What's that called?
Scrapyards.
Scrapyards.
Mm-hmm.
We know, my husband and I know somebody who has a scrapyard.
Me too.
I mean,
Crazy successful. Cash business.
So successful. Identifying need.
Yes.
That's where what we're always trying to impart to our kids. Like, okay, you want to be famous or you want to have money, but what does that really look like?
But part of that, if I could just interject for 1 minute, we say that to them, but then I look at my own soon-to-be 14-year-old, and from her perspective, her need is a better curling iron for her eyelashes. None of these kids are mature enough to really be able to go out and survey the market and say what the need is. They need to live more to realize what the gaps in services are. If there really is a product that can be made that would benefit, more than just a small demographic of people who would buy it. So I think a lot of it also is, are we putting too much pressure? Like, a 17, 18-year-old kid, like they shouldn't, maybe it's too soon for us to think that they'd be happy manufacturing, an auto body part. But you hope that when they learn about businesses, when they take classes, when they realize that there's more than one way to make money.
And that's part of why we're in this business. I sometimes I feel like we're peddling some sort of age-old or some sort of antiquated concept like go to college.
Right.
Do you think that college still has value?
Yes, I do think that college still has value, particularly because kids don't often know what they want to do, and where else can you spend a couple of years taking a wide variety of classes, trying on different things and seeing what fits. I do, however, think that we need to approach college differently and really think of it more in terms of skill acquisition. So I think trade schools, for instance, are going to come back. And I think that for high schools. And I think that we're going to see a lot of that happening in the university settings as well, where it's really helping people graduate, making sure you graduate with hard skills that AI cannot tackle,
right?
So that you can actually find gainful employment when you graduate and morph that into a career.
A lot of public high schools have done away with things like they used to have, auto shop or whatever, woodworking, or wood shop, auto shop, wood shop, all those things that and I think that the private schools should have them too. I mean, there's just not enough of, who is building the sets for the plays, all that kind of stuff. How do you learn that you love working with your hands? I think we've really spent a lot of time bolstering sports. Not that that's a bad thing.
Yeah, and the arts.
And I think I think a lot of the arts have been a little bit sort of, taken away or that's been devalued in a certain respect with the money and the prestige that happens with sports. And sports is another interesting aspect of something where that kids don't really understand what it takes to be a college athlete. You don't. We're not playing here.
No. I mean, this is the thing. I'm sure you've talked about this on your podcast. It's like these kids give so much to their sports, and the only place it is recognized on the entire college application is through 150 character description. That's it. It's like this thing that they've been spending 15, 20 hours a week sometimes doing. It's like this much space in a college application.
And to say nothing of the investment for the parents,
oh my gosh,
the families,
time and money, everything. Yeah.
To the point about purpose-driven life, will you talk a little bit about your thoughts on that? Because I think that also feeds into the sports stuff. We're not doing the sports to get somewhere. So, and actually to your point about skill acquisition too, what are we doing to our kids? Like, we've messed them up.
Well, I think that someone got it in their heads that beginning in ninth grade, everything needs to support a through line, which will, sort of contribute to who this student is. They're the jock, they're the musician, they're the artist, they're the this, they're the that. And in doing so, we've kind of sacrificed some authenticity. So I love a good through line, but the best through lines, in my opinion, are ones that come authentically when you see that a student has 5 different interests and you think, well, how can I combine their 5 different interests and choose a major for them, for instance? I think what happens is that a lot of kids are giving up doing things they love in pursuit of making varsity or, being recruited by IMG or whatever it is. They're giving up things that they like and that they're genuinely good at, and frankly, that make them more interesting than being a great goalie. They're giving those things up in pursuit of what they think their package needs to be.
Right. And who do we blame for that?
Probably the parents, and I count myself in that. I'm a parent. I feel like schools, if I were working as a college guidance counselor at a school, you're looking at the entire class and you're thinking, well, I need to position each one of these kids in a certain way to ensure that this graduating class does well in terms of college acceptances. I think it's just a combination. It's just sort of, I don't really know how we got to this point. I don't know. I can't blame any one person, but I just feel like probably the colleges themselves are to blame. When these GPAs, the process, the fact that everyone's GPA is so high, the grade inflation, it's like you have to differentiate yourself in some way. And yes, you absolutely need to differentiate yourself in some way. But you also have to do things you love just because, not because they're going to look good on a resume.
Well, I think we blame the instant satisfaction thing.
Yes, absolutely.
It's back to that, right?
You're absolutely right.
Like that's how I have to get the thing. So I can't keep knitting.
Right.
I can't keep baking challahs and giving them to my neighbors. I can't keep, whatever the hobby is that you do, because I have to really focus on X, Y, Z. Yeah. Because I got to get to the place. And I don't know where the place is.
Yeah.
So the means to an end with sports and with anything. I was with a client yesterday talking about dance. Same thing. And the parents, who were so lovely and awesome, and they were like, she spends 20 plus hours a week with dance. Do we keep doing this? Like, is this a thing? Are we need them, almost like they needed permission in a way for me to say, it's okay. I said to the student, do you love dance? She said, I do. I said, well, I know what you mean by I do, because sometimes it's really hard. It sucks the life out of you, etc. But if the good outweighs the bad, most of the time, and you feel satisfied, you feel enriched, you feel physically and mentally satiated, why are we doing dance? Well, the mom goes, well, it's incredible. She'll wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning to finish homework, to go to to do this. And she said, she's entirely self-motivated. And I said, well, that's why you're doing it.
Exactly.
Look at this kid.
Yeah, because no one cares how good of a dancer she is unless she's going to submit, apply for a dance MFA or something like that, or if they even, or BFA if they have that.
I said, well, how many teenagers are going to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning? And she said, her time management is incredible. She gets everything done. And I said, well, there you have it. That's the person who's going to be able to manage motherhood and working.
And that's the interesting part. That's what makes her interesting. That's what I would play up in an essay.
Right.
It's the ability to manage time, not what it feels like to be on stage performing. Anyone can write about that.
That's such a good point. One of the reasons why I think you are so amazing at this job, and why I feel so grateful that you decided to dump all that psychology business and come to us, is you're a master at helping them find the thing that makes them tick, peeling away the layers, which is part of, obviously, the skill that you have. Can we talk about some of the people that you've worked with, that where you really found the angle?
Yeah.
And the thing that made them sparkle?
I mean, one student that you know very well came to me and was just like, how I met her and I was like, well, this is what I want my daughters to be.
She's fabulous.
You know, upbeat, positive, happy, super smart. And most of her extracurricular, she was on the tennis team, but a big extracurricular for her was something called Link Generations, where she was essentially working at an assisted living, volunteering at an assisted living. And she also had this thing that she was posting videos on YouTube or TikTok of her dad and her singing. And then she would bring her dad to the home that she was working at. And she said, I legitimately, you know, I like old people. And I was like, well, there's something that we can do with that. And that something is applying as a gerontology major. It fit really well with things that she was doing anyway. She looked at me and she's like, well, what's gerontology? And
I might say the same thing to you also.
Yes. Well, it is helping older people through the aging process. And what was really interesting, right around this time, there was a documentary on Netflix about the blue zones, about why people in certain areas of the world are able to live for so long. And so I said to her, watch this documentary. And watching the documentary and thinking about the work that she had done volunteering and thinking about her relationship with her grandparents and thinking about a trip that she had taken to Poland and to Israel as part of a school trip, it all just kind of coalesced into the through line, into this package of someone who really was able to present, like, these are the things that I've done, and this is what I want to study specifically at these schools. And she ended up at Wisconsin.
I actually had a client a few weeks ago, maybe it was this week, I can't even remember, who does a lot of volunteering at an assisted living, same thing. And I said to the parent, do you know how incredible that is?
Most young kids don't have the patience
Young
for that.
kids, you know, a lot of kids like to work with kids. That was me. I was not an old people person. I loved kids. And the mom was saying, oh, she paints their nails. She does the manicure. She does the this. And I was like, this person has so much compassion, so much empathy, so much patience. And when we talk about writing the essay, one of the first exercises we often do is pick 5 adjectives to describe yourself. When they actually do distill their activities and whatever down to those 5 adjectives, like what does it mean about me that I'm such a dedicated dancer? What does it mean? Well, I'm really organized. I'm really motivated. I'm really this. Then we get down to, okay, so what are the majors or what are the activities you would do in college that would be reflective of those things? When you started working with people on their essays, which I know is your favorite thing to do. It's the hardest thing in the world, but it's very fulfilling. It's very fulfilling. What did you find to be the biggest challenge?
I always say the personal statement is a character essay, and most kids are a character. Like, what's that? They just, they're able to give the adjectives, but they have a hard time sort of, well, what does me saying I'm a patient or a compassionate person, how do I translate that into writing? And so I think that getting kids to brag about themselves is difficult. They can brag about, well, I scored this on a test, I did this, but in terms of that deeper work of really figuring out who they are and what's important to them, it requires just a lot of pulling at strings to sort of figure out what their character is and what's really important to them, and how can we use this personal statement to express something that we're not going to find anywhere else in your application.
Do you have a method?
Well, I love your brainstorming exercises. I think that's really good. Also, I learned from you the 10-minute writing. Sort of, I'll say between now and our next session, if it's once a week, we're meeting once a week, 10 minutes a day, I just want you to just sit down and do a mental dump and see what comes out of that. I really think I love asking the question, what do other people say about you?
Like, that's how a good one. I don't usually do that one.
Yeah, how do other people describe you? A student this year said, well, people they tell me all of their problems, and they say to me, I always know the answer to things. I always give good advice. I always know what's going to happen in a social situation before it happens. Wow. And I was like, wow, that's a lot of really good information. Let's go deeper on that. And she was this really insightful person. She loved observing people, really sort of like this person that could turn it on in a crowd, but really have an understanding of everything that was going on around her. And it just, I learned so much about her. And then the floodgates open in terms of not just writing the essay, but actually thinking about what this student could be good at doing with skills like that.
Do you think it's unreasonable for us to be asking kids what they want to major in on their application?
I do. I mean, I think it's sad to me that we have to do that. I understand it's for planning purposes at the universities. They can only have so many people in business schools and engineering schools. But I do. I don't think that it's fair. I think that they should have a couple of years to take a lot of classes and figure it out. And I say that as, again, someone who, as a therapist, worked with so many 20-somethings who said, I thought I wanted to do this.
Right.
And I went and I got this degree, and now I'm miserable. My parents said I should be an accountant. Well, I hate numbers. Whatever it is. Take the time to figure out what you really like to do.
Do you think that a major determines a career?
No, I think particularly for business. I think anyone can, as we were talking about before, you do not need a business degree to end up being a business person. I think even more, what matters more than a major nowadays is someone's people skills, their ability to public speak, their ability to be personable, to make other people around them feel comfortable. I think that is more important than a major. Most people can teach themselves what they need to learn.
Right. Or you can hire someone.
Or you can hire someone to do it for you or to teach you, help you, things like that.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, unless you want to go into a healthcare profession, you don't need.
Right. Unless you are literally, I mean, but even then.
Yeah.
You can still go to med school having been an English major.
That's right.
I was telling a client the other day, my mom and I have a very close family friend who my mom actually worked with on his Harvard Law application. He just graduated from Harvard Law. He just passed the New York bar. He was an ethnomusicology major.
Wow.
At Williams. And then he worked. He was out working for 7 years or something very long before he went to law school.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not necessary.
It's not necessary. And I think that this speaks to something that's really important, which is the nature of what work life is going to be like. It's even for our generation and moving forward is one of constant transformation. What you're doing, what you think you're going to do in college, I guarantee is going to be something different than you find yourself doing 10 years later, 20 years later. I even see this with my own friends, many of whom had big careers.
Right.
They stopped working because they wanted to stay at home with their kids. And now they're in their mid 40s and they're coming to me saying, what should I do? And I'm like, you got to go reinvent yourself. Go become a dental hygienist. Go get a nursing degree. Go figure something out. Take a interior design course at UCLA Extension, whatever. You have to reinvent yourself.
Right.
Things are not going to come to you. So I think the sooner we just let teenagers know this is it. This is the first stop of many stops in the rest of your life, the more comfortable they're going to be with making decisions. Because a lot of the stress of college guidance is am I making the right decision? Is this where I should be applying? Is this where I should attend? Like most mistakes can be undone.
Literally, unless it's like a life-ending situation.
Yes.
It's kind of like when you're applying to middle schools and high schools, whatever. And in the LA landscape, for those of you who are not, or New York or LA landscape, for those of you who live in normal places, this might be kind of a weird thing, but in choosing a school for your kids in Los Angeles is a huge thing. We don't have that many private schools. Our public schools aren't so great, et cetera, et cetera. You go through the application process. One of the things, I told my son was, we're just making a decision for the next couple of years. 6th, 7th, 8th grade. That is it. You want to leave after 8th grade and you want to do something different? That is totally fine with me. That made the process so much easier. With college, guys, you can transfer if it's not the right decision. But so much of their panic is the what are people going to say?
Yes.
Because they have to live two lives. They have to live the IRL life, and then they have to live the social media existence. What is the bed party going to look like? What is the this going to look like? Engaging in that, I'm wearing the sweatshirt today on senior day. I'm this, I'm that. What happens if I get waitlisted and I tell people this a lot. Do you know how many kids I know find out that they got into their dream school on July 6th? They have a roommate. They've paid the housing deposit. They may have already paid, they've already paid tuition at a school or whatever. I mean, and they have to pivot.
Yeah.
It's exactly what happens in our lives. Reinvent yourself. And I always remind them, no one at school cares.
They care for 30 seconds, not even.
They might be happy for you in the caring.
Yes, exactly. Or they look at it and then they're on to the next thing. They're
Great.
too busy
so now
thinking
she's going
of
to Penn and she was going to go to Michigan. Cool.
Yeah. And then then you ask, their parents will say, well, where's so-and-so going? I don't know. They don't even retain this thing the information that they thought was so important 10 seconds ago.
It's like when you get engaged, right? It's like, when are you going to get married? You get married. When are you going to have kids? When are you going to this thing? What are that? People, and my husband used to always say when people would ask me about that, I was like, why are they always asking like when we're going to, it's so rude. And he's like, they have nothing else to talk to you about. Yeah. And I tell the kids that too. They don't have anything else. They just, if you're a senior or where you want to go to college, what do you want to do with your life? And it's okay to be like, I don't know. I'm looking, I'm shopping. And then just shut them down.
Yeah.
Why do you think everybody applies to the same 25 schools? You're a psychologist. What is that?
Well, it's a known variable. I mean, it's like all of these schools, they have certain things that everyone is looking for. Everyone knows someone that has gone to one of these schools. Mm-hmm. I think there's something, you want bragging rights. You want to be able to say, oh, I'm a Wolverine. I'm a this, I'm a that. I think it comes out of a place of fear and wanting to do something, like wanting to wear a brand of clothing because you know that it's been vetted by people and everyone likes it.
And as somebody who went to one of those schools, I mean, not one of the 25, because the 25 are not easy to get. I mean, Stanford's not easy to get to, so we'll call it that's an outlier. Do you feel like prestige is still a thing?
I think that in certain circles and in certain professions, it is definitely still a thing. If you're looking at finance, management, consulting, things like that. I think in the small business world and the entrepreneurship world, no, I don't think that any of it matters. No, they absolutely don't.
And what about the psychology of the kids now at their schools with the competition that they face, kind of looking around each other? I think it used to be that you think that you were competing against other people in the country, but we know that that's not the case. How does that affect their mental health?
Yeah, it absolutely is. It is like a crisis that these kids are competing. It's bad enough that they're competing against their fellow classmates for grades and spots on sports teams and spots in clubs, but now they're competing with that same group of people for the same 20. It's not even 25 colleges. It's like for the same 12 colleges that everyone is applying to. And it really does. I think people they feel judged and they're weighing themselves against other people, and their self-worth is entirely too tied up in what other people are doing and where they stack up in that hierarchy.
How do we mitigate that?
I think a lot of it is doing what you're doing, like going to places like Marquette, showing students that there are other universities that have all the things, that have the rah-rah, that have the cute little town, exposing people to lots of different places, highlighting what certain schools like a High Point are doing in terms of life skills classes and really preparing the student body for how to get their first job and how to eat a meal at a restaurant and all of these other things. So I think that schools are going, if they're smart, if they want to evolve, if they want to get on the radar, are going to become more niche, and we need to explain what that looks like to students.
Right. Giving them the exposure. One of the reasons why people come here from all over the world to go to college is because we have thousands of colleges here. It's not like being in Europe or in India or in wherever where you have like 4 options, and if you don't get into those 4 options, you're dumb.
That's right.
And go find a trade.
That's right. And I also think that, there are people, especially who are from the coasts, we just want to stay here forever. But I mean, there are amazing cities. Dallas is a great city. Jackson Hole is a great city. And I have a student that's applying this year to be an energy major. He wants to work in the oil business. So we're basically looking at Montana, Wyoming, and Texas. That was like, I don't even know how he came. This wasn't my idea. He came to me saying he wanted to do this. Maybe he watched Landman or something like that. I don't know. But it's like there's so many interesting places, and we're all just so myopic. We just are so reluctant to get out of our comfort zones. And I think, we work with a lot of kids that come from privileged backgrounds. And so what that means is that they are going to New York, they're going to the Bahamas, they're going to Hawaii. They're not really having exposure to some of these other cities that actually have a lot to offer.
Like
and the
Denver,
things that yes.
Atlanta, New Orleans. I mean, all these places they're at Milwaukee is a super cool city. Like, I would definitely go back there.
St. Louis is a cool city too.
We live in a big place.
Yes.
So basically, exposing people to the lesser known schools, the lesser known majors, just giving them, if they don't know what they don't know.
They don't know what they don't know. And I think that they have this herd mentality, and there's a lot of logic to going someplace and potentially being a star at that place as opposed to being one of, a dozen economics majors, or not even a dozen, 50 economics majors graduating from, Boulder or whatever it is.
Well, hopefully we can keep helping them see the light of these different places. Alyson, you're a star.
Thank you.
You're a star here. Thank you so much for being here. Now, we've got to get to the last segment of the pod, which is the Admit It segment. Okay, so Admit It. Tell me 3 of your favorite schools right now.
All right, 3 of my favorite schools right now. Santa Clara University.
Love that one.
It's proximity to Silicon Valley. It's small. It's boutique. It has everything. It's gorgeous. Really love Santa Clara. I still love Chapman. I'm not going to lie. I think it is a mini USC. It's expensive, but it has it all. It's got the charm. Money. Yes, they're giving big money in terms of merit aid. It has it all. Every major you can think of, ties to the entertainment industry for people that want to be in LA and do that. Great school. And I think someplace like Southern schools are really, really hot right now. And we've been hearing that Elon is up and coming for a while. But I think that the next 2 years, we're really going to see a big push for that school, particularly because some of the other Southern schools that are popular are just so tremendous. Elon's a little smaller. Right. So for someone that wants to be in the South, but have more of a, sort of traditional small college environment.
Well, and also, if you wanted to apply to a place like Wake, it's so hard to get into now. Elon is very close,
right?
And I thought it was very similar. And I come from this world where maybe 15 years ago people would be like, what is Elon? That's crazy. What is that? That's a fake school. That's the school that your college counselor wants you to get into. So they're just going to put it on your list. But it's a real place, and it's really great.
We should visit. Have you visited?
I have.
Oh, see, I'm going to go.
It's really fabulous. The kids are so engaging and nice and smart. And it's very much a community where everything is happening on campus. The town is a whole bunch of nothing. So once you can wrap your head around that and you're like, I'm basically here, then you can get with the program.
Yeah.
I think it's hard for people to do that. Admit it. Are you going to start college counseling with your daughter who's in 8th grade now?
I've already started college counseling with my daughter in 8th grade. Actually, this morning, we actually spoke about it because for Hanukkah, I gave each of my girls some money and I said, this is not money to spend, this is money to donate. And so we're going to research where each of them could I stole it from a friend, but it was a good idea. And on the way to school this morning, my older daughter said, I said, well, what do you want to help people with? Do you want to help the homeless? And she said, well, I want something to do with fashion. And my first thing was like, we're not talking about that. We're talking about, giving back.
Right.
And then I thought Dress for Success. So I said, fantastic. I said, let's do a little research of what organizations, are actively working in Los Angeles. And then I didn't say this out loud to her, but in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, that's a potential thing for her. How can she grow this interest and have that be her, sort of philanthropic charity, community service thing over the next 4 years?
Leaning into her interest and what she likes. I think there's a lot of inclination to do the thing that is the thing that everybody does.
Yes.
And our kids slog through those activities when I have a kid who's very interested in fashion too. So that's giving me an idea.
Yeah.
Well, this was a pleasure. I love you.
I love you too.
I could talk to you.
I tell you all
just
the
want
time
you to do therapy with me. Maybe we should have therapy with Alyson and Alexis. That's the next podcast.
Well, I said this to you the other day, but thank you for giving me a job. Like, talk about reinvention. You helped this like usher in this new phase of my career. So thank you so much.
I love that. Thank you for teaching me so many things. So as long as I can become a better listener and less of a talker, otherwise I wouldn't have a podcast. So that's complicated. Join us next time on Admit It with Alexis White. Thanks for tuning in to Admit It with Alexis White. If you're working on your college applications and want guidance every step of the way, visit alexiscollegeexpert.com to find resources and support tailored for you. For even more tips, stories, and college insights, make sure to follow me on TikTok and Instagram @collegeexpert. Until next time, good luck, and remember, you don't have to do this alone.